and I will hand it over to Susan. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning. First, I want to say a big thank you to the library. It's been a great partner in our local tax aid program over the years, and we just appreciate how helpful they are to us and to the people in the community. AARP Foundation is a nonprofit. It's a national nonprofit, and Tax Aide is one of its programs. You might be interested to know that volunteer tax assistance is more than 50 years old. If you stop and think about it, people were doing paper returns manually, doing their own math and mailing in their returns. Well, that's really changed over the years. And today, AARP Tax Aide has no age limit. We serve all ages in our program. We have a special emphasis on low and moderate income taxpayers and taxpayers over 50. So that's our program. Our volunteers use IRS materials. We train and we are tested and certified by the IRS, but we operate under the foundation. Other close by tax aid programs in our area include Sequim, Forks, Port Townsend, Quilcene, and Chimacum. So we are volunteers, and if you're interested in joining our team, let us know. Emily, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. That was very thorough. I joined Tax Aide about 6 years ago when I moved to the area, and it is a very rewarding experience to help people with their taxes, because in general, people are very intimidated by the process and by the IRS, which, to be clear, one should be respectful of the IRS. One does not want to get sideways with the IRS. Now, Sarah, if you could put up the next graphic. Okay. One thing we wanted to emphasize early on is, yes, the IRS is this big monolith, but this is a sample of how they would contact you if they felt the need to. It's a letter in the mail, in the US mail. It probably, this letterhead, the format should look familiar to just about everybody, because everybody should have gotten a letter very similar to this recently about the economic impact payment that we all got, hopefully in March. This is the only way the IRS will ever contact you. I personally have more than once gotten on my answering machine an odd robotic voice threatening me with all sorts of dire consequences if I didn't call some bizarre odd phone number immediately. Do not, please do not call those numbers. If you get an email from somebody claiming to be the IRS, it's not the IRS. If you get a text message claiming to be the IRS, it's not the IRS. Only by US mail. So, if you get a letter from the IRS, it will tell you a number to call if you don't understand what it's about. We wish you to not receive many letters from the IRS other than something like this. But so that was just the first thing we wanted to reassure everybody, only by US mail. So Susan's going to kind of give a top view, topic by topic, of what we hope to cover this morning.
Okay, and it's going to be brief. This is the first time we've tried a Zoomcast, so We hope that we're hitting highlights, but we look forward to your questions as well. What we hope to cover today, do it yourself, do your own tax return. Is it for you? Is it something you should try? And if it isn't for you, after we get going, how can Tax Aide help you? We're going to talk about free e-filing, what it is and who can use it. We're going to talk about how to prepare for and do your return on a computer. We're going to talk about resources online and on-site physical resources here in our community. We will visit the IRS website and give some pointers. We want to touch on a few tax topics in general, and we'll see what we can do to answer your questions. So let's get started. The very first question came from Dave. He's in his late 60s. He said the IRS has a backlog. He wondered why he even has to file. He explains he usually doesn't owe anything. He asks, is there a cutoff point at which we can stop paying TurboTax and going through the headache of filing each year till we die? And that's a great question, actually, two great questions. Who must file? It's kind of surprising to a lot of people that not everyone even needs to file a return. And the second one, do you qualify for free e-file? You might be surprised at that answer. It's true the IRS has a backlog and there's a disclosure on its website. It very much discourages filing paper returns because of its backlog. So we're going to try and hop over to the IRS website right now. And let's see, am I there? Share.
You can see the IRS website.
Perfect, good. All right, and I know I'm on the official website because my browser is showing the address irs.gov. You can see that there are lots of things on the screen. And let me tell you folks, you cannot break this site. So get in there and dig around. The search box is the most useful, and I'm going to go to the 1040 instructions because 1040 is the tax return form. And I want to go, well, first, Sarah, could you put up the 1040 SR form?
Yes, it will supplant your screen share, but I can do it.
Why don't we do that first? If we have seniors viewing this, you'll want to know what's the difference. That's not the one. There we go. This form, you'll want to be sure you're on this form and that you're looking, well, at the instructions. Designed especially for seniors with large type, large boxes, easy to read, little easier to navigate. And that's all I really was going to show you. So now I got to get back to my website. Sorry. What happened? There we go. Oh, did I lose my website? Oh gosh, sorry folks. I think I lost my website. Let me back up. All right, I see it now. Share screen, and here we go. Now, I put in the box 1040 instructions. Oh, and here we are. So the very first one is just some general information. The second one down, forms and instructions. I'm going to go to instruction, not the form. And the first thing I want to show you is the beauty of IRS publications is almost all of them have a great index at the bottom. So scooch down to the very bottom and find the index because you will save yourself loads of time. So here we are on the index of the 1040. And if you want to look up health insurance deduction for the self-employed, you can click on the page number. It will jump to that section and let you read specifically about what you need to know. All right, so that's the 1040 instructions, and you'll want to have this handy. The library has hard copies, hard print copies of this instruction book, but is really very large. The online PDF works very well. I encourage you to try and use it. Don't try to print it out. It is very voluminous. In fact, let's check it out. It's 113 pages. If you tried to print it out, you don't want to do that. Okay, so that's the 1040. Want to call to your attention in this book. I'm going to back up to the very top. And you'll want to start with helpful hints. The Affordable Care Act, you might want to breeze through, but especially what's new. And this is going to give you some really important highlights. For example, the return date this year in 2022 is April 18th. That means you must pay if you owe taxes by April 18th to avoid penalty and interest. That's the filing deadline also to get your return in. If you owe money, you can file any time up until April 18th or on April 18th without penalty. If you are owed money, a refund, you don't have to file by the 18th. A lot of people don't know that. So there you go. And some important things this year, for example, unemployment compensation is fully taxable again. Last year, the IRS popped out an exemption for the first $10,800 of unemployment. That went away. So that's not happening this year. So you'll want to read what's new. Then we wanted to answer Dave's question. Who must file? We're going to get into free e-filing soon. Do you have to file? Filing requirements. And the IRS gives a tip. If you don't have to file, but you could be eligible for some of these credits, you'll want to file because you may get money back even if you don't have taxable income. The other thing is, you will see here, use chart A, B, or C to see if you must file a return. Okay, let's go to the chart. I'm scrolling down to chart A for most people. So let's talk about a married couple filing jointly, both over 65. If their gross income is at least $26,450, they need to file a return. But notice that there is a little caveat here. And when we come down here, what is gross income? It means all the income you receive, and I'm going to cut ahead over here, 1/2 of your Social Security benefits plus your other gross income and any tax exempt interest. So if our married couple has $40,000 in combined Social Security benefits, half of that is $20,000. If they have retirement income, dividend and interest, or capital gains, that takes them over $26,450. They have to file a return. I won't go into other detail, but there is another chart for children and other dependents who some of them must file their own return. And then chart C, other situations where you must file a return. So you'll want to look at that carefully. And Dave, we go back to chart A, and if you aren't required to file, then you aren't required to file a return. So that was a good question from you. I'm going to now hand this over to my colleague, Emily, who is going to talk a bit about, should you do your own return?
Okay, kind of as a follow-up on Dave's question about should you file, you know, as Susan just walked through, there's a lot of people who aren't required to file, but in tax aid, we do not discourage people from filing anyway. There was a period, and it's still a thing, where there are fraudulent filing of returns against people's Social Security numbers. Now, that mostly just causes everybody headaches. If you had withholding and, you know, paid a bunch of money and somebody snuck in and filed against your Social Security number and the IRS accepted it and sent them a big refund, then it's a monetary problem. But if you don't have any withholding, you don't owe any taxes, you can choose not to file. But you can also choose to file just to tell the IRS the Social Security number is used, nothing can be filed against it. And at tax aid, we do not discourage clients from filing just to accomplish that. So that is a personal choice. Now, in the case of choosing to file anyway, that's where you absolutely want to avoid paying for one of the tax services. If you can, because you're not, you know, why pay TurboTax, whatever they're charging, to file that you don't have any tax liability. And anecdotally, I hear that it's sometimes these paid programs don't even know what to do with, well, you don't need to file, you don't owe anything, and it's difficult to file. And this is where the free file that is offered by the IRS comes in. So I'm going to share my screen and my web browser to hopefully, okay, to just walk through a couple of the IRS, what is on offer by the IRS. So as Susan says, you want to go just to the IRS Gov website. If you do a search on IRS Free File, the first things you're going to see is a bunch of ads. And they may or may not be partners with the IRS. It may be a come-on. But the only way you're going to get the free file is by accessing the available program partners through the IRS website. So here we are. This should look familiar. It's the same IRS website. And if you just scroll down, front and center, IRS Free File. So let's go there. Now, so there's a couple of options here. And there's a lot of information on this page, and it is very useful information. So there's two things on offer. One is guided tax preparation. This is using one of the partner programs. And it's similar, if you're familiar with it, to TurboTax, where it's guided. So as you work through your return, it's a question and answer process so that it helps you. If all you know is that, well, I've got a W-2 and a 1099 and, don't know how these numbers go into a tax return, it helps you. And down below, there's a lot of information, how Free File works, what the IRS Free File partnership is, which the reason this program happened, it's a public-private partnership. The IRS was threatening to come up with their own tax preparation software. And the Intuits and H&R Blocks of the world and TaxSlayer and the other big players weren't happy with that. And so the IRS says, okay, we won't do that, but we want you to offer a free service to the low and moderate income taxpayer. And then we won't develop our own software. So that's how it started. Now, my understanding is that recently some of the big players like Intuit, which is TurboTax, and H&R Block have dropped out of this program. So the current participants are lesser name tax programs, but there's still, I believe, 7 different choices. So that's why these programs are available for Free File. What you need to get started, prior year returns. This is pretty key. If you dive into this, and it probably would tell you before you set up the account, they want prior year returns. This actually is what you need to get started. Okay, you need your prior year adjusted gross income because you're going to set up an account with this, with whatever program you end up choosing. And you need your prior year adjusted gross income, which is a exact number off of your prior year return, so that they know who you are, that you and your Social Security number that you're going to be entering are one and the same. So there's a lot of good information down below, but let's go ahead and go to Free File offer. Now, again, frequently asked questions, what you'll need, pay attention to this, although the beauty of these programs is you set up an account, you can go in and out as information becomes available. We would urge anybody to start sooner rather than later. But don't feel under pressure to do your return all at once. These are online accounts. You go in, put the information in that you have, sign out, the information is saved. And the information will be saved from year to year if you use the same provider. So if we look at browse all, providers, IRS Free File, TaxSlayer, 1049, okay. And they all have similar but slightly different information about, who they're willing to serve. And all of these are free fed. Since we're in Washington, the state tax return isn't an issue for most of us. So then it's like, well, okay, then what's the difference? Oh, this one is only adjusted gross income, AGI, of 41,000 or less. But there are several of them that go up to 73,000. So these are definitely, aimed at low and moderate income people. So there's a filter which will help you choose, or let's go back a step, this Free File online lookup tool. And this helps weed things out. So you know, married filing jointly, who's going to be listed first? I'm going to be listed first. Age, I'm not shy. Okay, what country? US, Washington, military, no, next. And then it wants some basic information about your different types of income. And then it wants, Social Security, okay, 22,000, investment, just a little bit of that. But I also have a pension. So, and then it asks for all these other things, which let's skip over them. So next, my AGI is 51. So it's going to say, oh, earned income tax credit. I'm not familiar. No, I don't. No, 0. Am I eligible? No, don't think so. Okay, next. And it tells me, okay, I've got 3 choices. You go from there. Oh, sorry. 2 choices, file your taxes and OLT. So that's a helpful tool because it tells you that for whatever reason, there are age limitations on some of these. These are my choices. And then you can go and look at them more closely, set up an account, go from there. Okay, now, the other option, which I'm not familiar with. So I'm just pointing out to you that there's free file fillable forms. And this would be an option for the experienced preparer, I think. People that are used to doing their own taxes every year, maybe even doing it on paper, but this year want to do it electronically. If you know what your situation is, you have last year's return, you know, in general, what different forms you need, what your end result is likely to look at like, then the free fillable forms is an option. Down below, they tell you, let's see, you do have to have the correct browser. They have a list of the forms. So if you have a fairly, unusual form that you need to file, but my understanding is that it's a pretty extensive list of all the different forms. So again, this is a very interesting option, and maybe this is for you. We don't have experience with it, but it's interesting. So I would just kind of sum up by saying that doing your own taxes is doable. Absolutely. But you need to be realistic about your own capabilities, your own, access to computers is important. Doing it by paper, as Susan mentioned, is not recommended because of the backup. And to be honest, doing it by paper, there's a lot of line by line calculations that a lot of people will run into. That's very confusing. But a computer will do those calculations. The online programs will do those calculations, carry numbers to the appropriate schedule form. It does a lot of the nitty-gritty work for you. But you're gonna need a computer. A tablet, I wouldn't recommend. Those operating systems aren't the same as the type of browser that the IRS works best on, or these programs work best on. If all you've got is a smartphone, I wouldn't recommend it. So you need to have access to a computer, and we're going to ask Sarah when I finish up here to talk about the availability of computers at the library. but so you're going to need technology. You're going to have a certain understanding of your own financial situation, how your income flows into a tax return, the complexities of dependence. You need to understand a certain amount going into this. You can figure it out. The IRS has all the information, but you have to have a high tolerance for clicking around the web and hunting down answers. And by hunting down answers, we mean on the IRS website. Professor Google doesn't always have the most reliable answers to some tax questions. So we would encourage anybody to try doing their own return. And even if you choose one of these free file services and get stuck, it's not the end of the world as long as you're not up against April 18th. Try it, see how far you get. If you're uncomfortable, you can sign out, do some research. You know, at the end, you can look at the end results, see if it's reasonable. And if you just are overwhelmed, you stop. And then you try getting help someplace else, either a tax aide or a paid preparer. But in general, these question and answer programs are they're pretty good. And if you've got questions in the moment, very often they have little question marks just by the question that expand and may answer your question. There's a lot of questions that will not apply to you because they have to cover all the bases. And, you know, as long as you have a clear idea of, no, I don't have any dependents, no child tax credit, you know, then you shouldn't get flustered by that kind of thing. So I'm stopping sharing that. So Sarah, if you could hop in and talk about what the library offers, and I think we also had a graphic about the community, the senior center.
Yes, let me put the senior center up for a minute. There we are. Susan, did you have more information about the senior center first? The lab hours are listed on the slide here at the bottom, but you said you do have to be a member.
Correct, Sarah.
Of the senior center.
Correct. The senior center is a wonderful partner for us, and they are our venue for our volunteers to work from. So taxpayers who are using our program will come to the senior center, but they cannot come into the building. They remain in their vehicle and they must have an appointment. And that's a tax aid requirement. However, if you're a senior in this community, and not just in the city, but in the county and the outlying areas, you can join the senior center. They do have a computer lab, open hours for, you know, just free use, 10 to 2 Monday through Thursday and 11 to 2 on Friday. So if you don't have a computer or you're working on an old computer, you want something newer, this is an option in addition to the library.
Thank you. Let me share our hours screen so everybody can see. We have 4 branches throughout the county, and the hours recently have been updated and are different a little bit branch to branch. So our computers are open all the hours that the library branch is open. The computers do automatically shut down 5 minutes before closing, and there's an announcement about that. So just know that that deadline is for real. The Sequim branch is a little bit crowded. Currently only has 3 sit-down computers and 1 express computer. Port Angeles has 8 sit-down computers and 2 express computers plus a scanning computer where you could scan a document if you needed to for any reason. Forks is laid out differently, has 13 computers plus express and scanner, and Clallam Bay has just a couple of computers. We are open on Saturdays everywhere except for Clallam Bay. The log on for the computer is based on your library card. Anybody who lives in the county can get a library card for free, and it will allow you access to the computer. If you don't have a library card or you're not sure, just come in with your ID. When you log in with your library card, you will automatically get a 60-minute computer session. If no one is waiting for a computer, your time will renew. You can have up to 3 hours per day on any computer at any library. The staff are not currently able to offer a lot of computer help. If you need someone to sit down with you, we suggest you bring in a friend, a neighbor, or a relative, and you can sit together at the computer to work together. Staff never receive any IRS training, so if you have a question about the IRS website, we would Google it or use the IRS tools, but you are also capable of doing that. We have faith in you. There is also printing available at the library. If you file and you would like to print out a copy for yourself, you can do that here. When you log into the computer with your library card, you have $2.50 of free printing per week. So you would be able to print off any, if you need a special form, just 1 or 2 pages, you could print that off, and you can also print off your copy of your return that you file, however you file it. And are there any additional questions about computer access at the library? I think I got everything. Susan.
Yes, okay. What I wanted to talk about for seniors or anyone, we talked earlier about who must file. Oh, I'm sorry, I should let you see me. Who must file? And if you have a return where you're not required to file, you don't owe money, you don't expect to get money back, you don't fit on that list of who must file, and you try to do free file, I want to give you a caution that it may not send the file to the IRS if you are a 0 balance return. You don't owe money, you're not getting money back, it may not electronically file. Well, what should you do? If you're not required to file, you have a couple options, but one I would recommend is prepare a paper return, keep your tax documents together, and just hold on to it. If you're ever asked by the IRS for information, you've got it documented. I did my best. I looked. I didn't see that I owed anything, etc. The other thing you can do is mail in a paper return, but we've already talked about how the IRS is backlogged, so it's really not going to do much for you. I wanted to also say that a lot of people think, oh, I owe money, I'm going to put it off. I'm going to wait to do my return because I think I'm going to owe money. And that's not a good strategy. A better strategy is to get started as soon as you can so you know your position. If you do owe money, again, April 18th is the filing deadline. It gives you time to look at your options, how you could make your payments, how are you going to come up with the money you owe. So we encourage you to get started and get going. Sarah, could I ask you to put up the little graphic of the SSA 1099? No?
1 second there. Let's see.
There we go. For seniors, I wanted to call this one to your attention. When we're doing tax returns, we want to be sure we're on a real tax form. Most of the forms are going to be 1099s. You'll see 1099-R, retirement income, 1099-G, unemployment compensation, 1099, whatever. And the reason we're doing this is because your tax return is going to try to match the data the IRS already has on your account. So the Social Security Administration has sent in a file. They've told the IRS, this is the gross payments. This is the federal withholding. These are the Medicare premiums that were deducted. If you try to do it off, say, the Social Security explanation of benefits, you may not match up. So that's a waste of time, and your return could be rejected, or you could be getting a letter from the IRS. I've also seen people try to do this in lieu of a W-2. They bring in their last pay stub year-to-date earnings and think that that can be shoved into the return. That is inappropriate. You're matching your data with the data the employer has given the IRS. They need to match. So be sure you're using correct tax documents and you're on the right tax year. Sometimes these things can be commingled, so be careful. All right, we're done with that graphic. Now, we have gone through a lot of material here. We want to see if you have questions, but one more thing I want to talk to you about. And Sarah, if you could put our poster up. If after hearing all of this, you're thinking, I don't know if I really want to mess around with this, I want to explain a little bit about our tax aid program. These are free services. Again, we are trying to help low and moderate income taxpayers of all ages. Appointments are required. We're working out of the senior center. So call and get an appointment. Organize your documents. We can prepare your return and we can free e-file it if you need help. It came to my mind that, doing a simple return, we want to encourage you to try and do it yourself. But if you've had a major life event, a spouse that has died, or you're retiring and you're on your first year of retirement income, if you have a child that's starting college, or you have bought or sold a home, those are situations that can be a little tricky for some people who are not comfortable doing their own tax returns. So we clearly invite you to consider our services. And then Sarah, if you would put up the last graphic, we have a scope document that says what we can do and what we can't do as a volunteer organization. And you'll want to be sure that you don't fall under the can't prepare returns with. There are rules on self-employment, hobby income, rentals, farm income, moving expenses, certain elaborate or complex investment incomes or itemizations, foreign assets, and virtual currency investment or transaction. We're not ready. So there we go. And maybe now is a good time to see what additional questions there may be.
Questions can come in through the chat, or because it's a small group, if you are comfortable unmuting yourself, you may ask your question verbally.
You got it.
Well, so far I don't see anything in chat, but David, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was great. I think you answered my questions fully. Thank you so much.
Good.
Anybody else? Well, maybe we've done our job and we're done.
You did it perfectly on time too. I'm going to stop the recording now. And like I said, this recording will be available on the Knowles YouTube page through January of 2023.